The Kalari Union had always prided itself on diplomacy, trade, and scientific elegance. A peaceful confederation of 11 systems, its people believed war was a relic of lesser species, something avoided through intelligence and negotiation. That belief shattered in under 72 hours. The Gralvex swarm did not send envoys. They did not issue demands. They simply arrived, thousands of warships erupting from hyperspace like a plague. Massive biomechanical vessels tore through. Border outposts, Kalari defense platforms, more ornamental than functional, crumbled before they could issue a single broadcast. Entire colonies went dark within hours. In the Union's capital, high counselors argued in panic, their once poised voices raised, in fear. The Kalari were scholars and engineers, not warriors. Their defense fleet was symbolic, built to dissuade pirates or rogue miners, not face an apex predator like the Gralvex. Ambassador Tavren, the oldest and most respected among them, finally offered the unthinkable. "There is one more option," he said gravely. "We send an SOS to the Deathworlders." The chamber went silent. The word Deathworlders was not used lightly. It referred, of course, to the species known as humans, natives of Earth, a Class 13 death world. Humanity had only joined the Galactic stage a century ago, but in that time their reputation had become legend. War was etched into their DNA. Their world's fauna tried to kill them daily, their weather conspired against survival, and their history was a blood-soaked testament to resilience, and yet they thrived, adapted, conquered. "Madness," hissed Counselor Varel. "We summon apex predators to fight other apex predators. We trade the claw for the fang." Tavren held her gaze. "Would you rather extinction?" Debate raged for hours, but the decision was inevitable. One Kalari system after another was falling. Their own fleet, what little of it remained, was days from total collapse. With trembling fingers, a communications officer activated the galaxy-spanning distress beacon, keying it with a specific frequency known only to a few. Terran Command, Channel 7. The message was short, formal, desperate. "To the Sovereign Command of Earth, on behalf of the Kalari Union, we request immediate military aid. Coordinates attached. We will accept all conditions. This is an SOS. We are out of time." The beacon pulsed out across the stars, its quantum relays bypassing bureaucratic relays and subspace routers. No one knew if Earth would even listen, let alone respond. Human governments were fragmented, their alliances ever-shifting. Some believed Earth's armada had gone rogue decades ago, operating as an independent force answering to no one but themselves. Hours passed. Then a single reply arrived, encrypted, untraceable, carrying only one word: acknowledged. Silence fell in the Kalari war chamber. Some gasped, others wept. Counselor Varel simply stared, whispering, "We've opened the door to something we don't understand." Tavren said nothing, eyes closed as if in prayer. Deep in her bones, she knew the truth. The Kalari hadn't just called for help. They had summoned death, and death was on its way, with a fleet. The Kalari Union didn't know what to expect after sending their SOS to Earth. No alliance had ever openly coordinated with humanity before. Even when other empires had quietly purchased Terran mercenaries, they did so in secret and with tightly monitored contracts. But the Kalari hadn't asked for a contract. They had begged for survival. Within 36 hours of the human reply, acknowledged, the first signs appeared. Distortions along hyperspace routes, sudden gravitational anomalies, and strange subspace frequency fluctuations. Kalari astrophysicists couldn't identify the ship signatures. They didn't match any known database. No heraldry, no IFF beacons, no conventional drive trails. Then the long-range telescopes caught a glimpse: humanoid vessels. But they were unlike anything in the Galactic Registry. Black, angular hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No running lights. No radio signals. Just quiet, massive shapes dropping from hyperspace with a precision that bordered on surgical. First came 6, then 40, then over 100 vessels, surrounding the edge of Kalari-controlled space like a tightening noose. They did not ask for permission to enter. They simply did. Kalari citizens across multiple systems watched in awe and growing dread as these ships arrived silently, hovering above spaceports and capital cities. A single command vessel, a dreadnought the size of a moon, positioned itself in high orbit above the Kalari homeworld, Kalesh Prime. That's when the transmission came. A woman appeared on every major Kalari broadcast channel. Her features were unmistakably human: pale skin, short-cropped silver hair, eyes like steel. She wore a uniform devoid of ornament, marked only with a singular emblem: a golden circle split by 3 jagged lines, Earth's military insignia. "This is Admiral Rhea Solari of the Terran Vanguard. We have received your distress call. The Kalari Union is now under Terran martial protection, effective immediately." Her voice was flat, emotionless. Her statement carried the weight of something irrevocable. Kalari military officials scrambled to respond, demanding coordination, explanation, anything to give them back control over their own defense. But Earth's fleet ignored their pleas. Within minutes, human orbital platforms deployed. Swarms of autonomous drones emerged like black clouds spreading across the skies. On the ground, dozens of Terran transports touched down in major cities, deploying armored infantry and command outposts without a single request for clearance. The Gralvex, meanwhile, had taken notice. The alien swarm, once confident in their overwhelming numbers, had halted their advance. Their warships lingered at the edge of Kalari space, scanning the new arrivals with unfamiliar unease. The Gralvex respected power, and Terran ships radiated it. Kalari civilians gathered near the edges of Terran landing zones, watching with wide eyes. The human soldiers never removed their helmets, their weapons never lowered. Even as children waved or cried, the Deathworlders stood motionless, predators among sheep. Counselor Varel voiced what many were thinking. "We begged for protection. What we got is occupation." But Ambassador Tavren, staring up at the looming Terran dreadnought in the night sky, said only, "No, we are not occupied. We are being shielded, and nothing survives the fire that shields us." As the Kalari Union trembled beneath the shadow of Earth's fleet, one thing became clear: the humans had arrived, and they were preparing for war. For 3 tense days, the Kalari Union held its breath. Earth's fleet now hung over their worlds like silent sentinels: dozens of capital ships, hundreds of escort vessels, and countless drones and atmospheric monitors. No demands were issued. No negotiations opened. Only readiness. Then the Gralvex made their move. Thousands of insectoid warships surged back into Kalari space, sweeping in from multiple vectors, their strategy simple: overwhelm the Terran forces before they could fully deploy. The swarm had devoured empires before, entire species crushed beneath sheer numbers and brute force. The Kalari feared the same would happen again. But humanity did not fear the swarm. They welcomed it. The moment Gralvex ships crossed into Terran engagement zones, the black silence of Earth's fleet was shattered by a single, brutal declaration from Admiral Rhea Solari, broadcast on all open frequencies. "Engagement protocols active. Fire at will." What followed wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Terran ships moved with unnatural coordination, every trajectory pre-calculated, every response immediate. They didn't launch energy weapons or plasma beams like other galactic navies. Instead, they fired rods of tungsten, the size of buses at relativistic speeds, projectiles accelerated by electromagnetic rail systems. Gralvex cruisers were torn in half by invisible kinetic strikes. Their shields, designed to absorb energy, were useless. Within minutes, the front lines dissolved into chaos. Then came the next phase. From the Terran dreadnought, an entire orbital lance battery deployed, directed energy weapons capable of punching holes through kilometers of armor. Gralvex command ships, vessels considered indestructible by galactic standards, detonated in blinding flashes. Kalari stations, which had braced for mutual annihilation, watched in stunned silence as the impossible unfolded. 1 swarm, 2, 5, all erased in less than an hour. Terran assault ships deployed next, dropping armored infantry onto Kalari moons and outposts where Gralvex had landed. The soldiers moved like machines, no hesitation, no chatter. Their armor was matte black, faceless, inhuman. They used weapons the Kalari didn't recognize, some that rippled through space, tearing apart matter at a molecular level. Gralvex ground units, once feared for their regenerative capabilities and swarm tactics, found themselves unable to even reach human lines before being vaporized, incinerated, or atomized. By the time the battle ended, the space around Kalesh Prime was littered with drifting carcasses, entire Gralvex fleets reduced to scrap and frozen corpses. The Kalari Military High Command sent a message to Admiral Solari, requesting a tactical meeting and formal report. Her reply was chilling in its simplicity. You asked for firepower. This was restraint. In Kalari cities, civilians watched replays of the battle in disbelief. Many had never seen war. Few had imagined what total annihilation looked like. Now, they knew. The Kalari weren't just protected. They were beneath the boots of a species born for violence. Councillor Varel, standing before the High Senate, demanded the humans be reined in. They answer to no one. They kill without hesitation. This is not aid. It is domination by another name. But Tavren shook her head slowly. They did exactly what we asked of them, and now we must live with what we summoned. Overhead, more human ships arrived, not retreating, reinforcing. The Gralvex fleet was gone, scattered debris the only reminder of its once feared power, yet the atmosphere in the Kalari Union was not one of celebration but of quiet dread. The humans had saved them, but at a cost no one had expected. The Kalari Council convened an emergency session, not to discuss rebuilding, but to address the question now looming over every citizen and system. What did the humans want? For 3 days, there had been no word from Admiral Solari or the Terran fleet. They occupied orbit, fortified their outposts, and established a vast comms network that quietly overrode Kalari systems. They were not hostile, but they were not guests either. Then on the morning of the 4th day, Admiral Solari requested a meeting. No delegation, no negotiation. She would speak directly to the High Council, alone, flanked by 2 silent soldiers. In armor that shimmered like obsidian, Solari entered the chamber of the Kalari Senate. She offered no formal greeting, no flourish of diplomacy. She walked to the center dais, activated a small hollow emitter, and displayed a series of star maps. The Gralvex aren't done, she began. The swarm you witnessed was a forward spear. More will come. Stronger, faster, more adaptive. We've fought them before. We know their patterns. You don't. The counselors exchanged alarmed looks. Then, you intend to remain? Asked Counselor Varel, barely hiding her suspicion. Solari turned her cold gaze on him. We intend to fortify. Your territory is now a critical bulwark. We've begun construction of phase array defense stations across your outer sectors. You will allow it. A stunned silence followed. Ambassador Tavren, the one who had initiated the SOS, finally spoke. What are your terms, Admiral? You came when we asked. You defended us. But what do you want in return? Solari didn't hesitate. 3 things. 1. Unrestricted access to Kalari space for Terran military operations. 2. Deployment zones on key orbital platforms, maintained jointly but under our command. 3. A non-interference clause. You will not impede, delay, or monitor our strategies. Counselor Varel rose, furious. You speak as though this is an alliance. This is occupation. Solari met his gaze without blinking. If it were occupation, you'd be under martial law and disarmed. This is a shield, one that costs blood to hold in place. You called for Deathworlders. This is what we are. Her voice dropped lower. Your galaxy made a habit of mocking Earth, keeping us at arm's length, laughing at our primitive beginnings. But when real war comes, who do you call? Silence. Tavren bowed her head slightly. We called because no one else could stand. Solari nodded. And now we stand in front of you. Not because we crave power, but because we understand what your kind refuses to. Survival is earned, not granted. With that, she turned and left. In the days that followed, the Kalari reluctantly ratified the agreement. Terran engineers expanded their defenses, anchored new star bases, and deployed long-range sensor nets that reached into uncharted dark space. Kalari sovereignty was intact on paper, but everyone knew who now held the real authority. And far beyond the Union's borders, the stars trembled. Something worse than the Gralvex was moving. Earth knew it, and Earth was preparing. Months passed since the Terran fleet repelled the Gralvex. Kalari trade routes reopened, cities were rebuilt, and civilian life cautiously resumed under the shadow of the Terran warships. But beneath the surface of stability, unease deepened. Terran engineers were not idle. They transformed asteroid belts into fortified kill zones, turned gas giants into fuel processing hubs, and installed sensor buoys in even the most remote sectors. Kalari scientists, once proud custodians of their star system's secrets, found themselves locked out of their own telescopic arrays, now monitored by Earth's military AI. The Terrans worked in silence, always precise, always watching. Counselor Vrel led a growing movement of dissent. "We may have traded annihilation for occupation," he declared in the Senate. "Our skies are ours no longer. These Deathworlders do not protect, they rule." But his words fell on weary ears. The Kalari people remembered the Gralvex, and they remembered who bled to stop them. Still, whispers grew. Some Kalari intelligence agents began probing restricted Terran databases, trying to understand their true plans. What they found chilled them. Vast simulations of interstellar war, hundreds of battle scenarios involving not just the Gralvex, but other more enigmatic threats. Names began appearing in the reports. Entities unknown even to Kalari High Command, the Null Choir, the Pale Swarm, the Black Signal, and worst of all, the Void Throne. No descriptions, no visuals, just vague references and warning stamps marked existential class hostile. Then came the incident. A deep space Kalari science vessel, Ilixen Dawn, picked up an anomaly near the edge of the Arcos Rift, a dead region of space thought to be uninhabited. A simple probe mission turned into a silent disaster. The ship's last transmission was a garbled audio clip, something resembling human speech, but reversed, distorted, alien. The Terrans arrived 6 minutes after the transmission ended. No Kalari vessel had ever responded that fast. When Kalari Fleet Command asked how they were able to get there so quickly, Admiral Solari answered with a single phrase: "Because we knew what was sleeping there." The Ilixen Dawn was never recovered. Terran ships cordoned off the Arcos Rift with a quarantine perimeter and silenced all attempts at further inquiry. Civilian traffic was rerouted. Kalari protests were ignored. Tavren demanded an audience with Solari. "You knew something was there. You used our space as bait." Solari didn't deny it. "Your call gave us reach, but the threat was always coming. We didn't lure it. We simply saw it first. Now, we have a chance to prepare," Tavren asked softly. "Prepare for what?" Solari's voice was quieter than before, not cold, almost reverent. "For something older than war, something that even the Gralvex fled from. The swarm was a symptom. What's coming is the disease." That night, across Kalari worlds, Terran orbital platforms shifted into full lockdown. Red warning lights pulsed across the sky. Entire civilian sectors were evacuated. Quietly, efficiently, and from the edge of the galaxy a new signal pulsed, one not heard in millennia, a sound like a heartbeat, not human, not Gralvex. Older. The Deathworlders didn't panic. They tightened their grip, because what came next wasn't conquest. It was extinction, and Earth planned to meet it first. The Arcos Rift boiled. Where once there was silence, now pulsed a rhythmic, unnatural beat. Waves of dark energy radiating outward in precise, intelligent patterns. Entire Kalari sensor stations went blind. Gravity wells rippled unnaturally. Time distortion warnings triggered across dozens of star systems. The galaxy watched in horror as the Void Throne awoke. It didn't arrive with fleets. It didn't fire weapons. It simply emerged, a titanic structure of impossible geometry that unfolded from folded space. Kalari scientists couldn't agree whether it was a ship, a god, or a scar in reality itself. Just looking at it through magnified scans caused nausea and hallucinations. Then came the whispers. Across Kalari colonies, people began reporting voices in their dreams, whispers in languages they never knew, promising peace, unity. Silence. Entire mining crews vanished. AI cores went rogue. Vessels found drifting near the rift were empty. No damage, no signs of struggle, just absence. It was then the galaxy realized the Deathworlders hadn't overreacted. They had underreacted. Terran. Command responded immediately. Operation Oblivion Veil launched in full. Entire civilian populations were relocated from the outer sectors. Orbital habitats were rigged with fail-safe self-destruct codes. Terran soldiers donned new armor, blacker than void, covered in quantum-threaded sigils. They called it exo-terminus gear. Admiral Solari stood before her officers on the dreadnought. Vanguard of Earth, eyes fixed on the anomaly. This isn't war, this is containment. We don't win. We just make sure the rest of the galaxy doesn't burn. They deployed Project Blacksteel, Earth's secret weapon. Not a bomb. Not a battleship. A human. Codename Raziel. He was no ordinary soldier. A genetic convergence of Deathworld evolution and engineered resilience. Raziel had been born on a planet where gravity twisted metal and storm shattered cities. Earth's own black site scientists built him to fight not armies but cosmic entities. He dropped from orbit alone and landed on the surface of the Void Throne. Kalari observers watched in disbelief. Nothing returned from the rift. Not footage, not signal, until a sudden pulse rocked every system within 10 light years. For a moment the rift screamed. Then, silence. Terran forces held position. They didn't celebrate. They knew better. A week later, Raziel returned, walking through space, alone, his armor cracked, his eyes unreadable. The throne is sealed. For now, he said. But it knows us now. He handed Admiral Solari a single shard, a sliver of the Void Throne. It hummed with residual entropy. Solari locked it behind 10 layers of containment and issued a command that echoed across Terran networks. Begin Phase 3. Humanity is no longer waiting. Terran banners were raised across new outposts, not as conquerors but as wardens. The galaxy began to understand. Humanity had not come to join the galactic stage. They had come to hold the line. The Kalari Council passed a unanimous resolution. Earth would be granted unrestricted strategic authority in all void-adjacent sectors. The rest of the galaxy, watching from afar, began to whisper a new name. The flame that watches. Humanity, the Deathworlders, had answered the SOS. But in doing so, they had become something else. Not saviors. Not tyrants. Sentinels. For the galaxy's survival, they would walk the edge of extinction and make sure nothing stepped through again.